Now, we go after other diseases in a different way, and I'll come to that in a minute, but basically it's through collaborations. But first let me mention what's on the next slide here, which is other uses of stem cells, and particularly of our parthenogenic stem cells. And fundamentally, toxicity testing is a big deal. We're focusing on two things. Corneas, which I already mentioned. We'd like to replace the Dray's test for animals. And we're focusing on liver cells because liver failure is one of the largest causes of failure in drug trials, the expensive phase 3 trials that cost hundreds of millions of dollars for drug companies. If we can give them liver cells that are human cells in an easy-to-use form and unlimited supply, we think we can greatly cut that cost down and access a market that's been estimated to be somewhere in the $2.8 billion range. So it's a big deal for us. The next slide deals with how we plan to get these treatments out to people, and that's where I mentioned collaboration. We're a small company. We can focus on certain specific diseases, but we don't think that any company, even a much bigger one than we, can possibly go out and do all the research necessary to get cells to everybody who might need them. So we're focusing on something quite different. We're collaborating with various academic research organizations. Some of them are listed on this slide. They're in the U.S., they're in England, they're in Germany, and soon will be in other countries, I'm sure. And our model is very simple. We will provide the cells. We will not charge the very high licensing fees that are often charged for embryonic stem cells. And all we ask is the ability that as new discoveries are made, we have a right to use those discoveries so that ultimately we can produce cells and make them available for treatment. So it's a very nice symbiotic relationship. It enables us to have the possibility of having our cells go through FDA approval processes with private foundation grants or NIH grants or other funding sources that are given to academic institutions or other companies. Our cells will get approved, and we can potentially treat many more diseases than if we were trying to do all of that ourselves with our own independent funding. So we're very proud of that. Again, it's the Intel Inside model for us. We want to be the supplier of the cells. We don't care who gets the best treatment or who comes up with the best model. If it needs cells, we want to be the ones that provide them. I used to tell my associates, why don't we call this company Cells Are Us? But they thought that was a little bit impertinent, so we stuck with International Stem Cell. I think I've discussed everything that's on the next slide, quite frankly, the benefits of the collaboration. We get the benefit of the best and the brightest in the world. We minimize our costs, and we help them get to FDA-approved trials. People ask us what, the basic model. It's we manufacture, we bank, we distribute cells, and we have the ability to hopefully provide cells anywhere they're needed. We're international in scope, as the name would imply. We have our primary office in Oceanside, California. We have an office in Walkersville, Maryland, a suburb of Baltimore, that provides research products. And then we have a research facility, which is not owned by us, but is a collaborative facility in Moscow, where we continue to develop new stem cell lines to enable us to create the cell bank that I mentioned earlier. I should take 1 minute to talk about the next slide, which has on it a photo of one of our research products. We sell research products which are cells derived from human sources, not from stem cells, although we are just about to launch a program with stem cells. And we sell what's called media, which is the soup that cells grow in the Petri dish. And that's very important because the type of media determines what the cells become, at least in part. There are other factors. And as a result, we've built a small but rapidly growing business of selling those cells and that media to other researchers throughout the world, which hopefully will help speed other people's trials toward the clinic, and hopefully will enable us to be part of other therapeutic processes. For example, when you go to the FDA, all of the processes that you use in the approval are carefully documented. And one of those may very well turn out to be the use of our particular media in growing the cells that are used for a transplant. So we might very well find out that someone who never even used our stem cells nevertheless has used our media and we have a customer for life because the FDA has approved a particular transplant procedure that uses Lifeline, which is our subsidiary's media. So it's another source of potential benefit to mankind and to us. I'm not going to dwell on the management of our company. I'm the CEO. I come out of a long history of in the area of startup companies and small companies, public and private. Jeffrey Janis, our CEO of Lifeline and our president of the parent company, comes out of a background of creating the very kinds of research products that we are now selling. The real key that I'd like to stress is on the next slide, which is our scientific team. Dr. Ravasova, who was the founder of the company, if you will, was for many years the chief scientist in biology for the Soviet Union, and as a result brings an unparalleled knowledge of stem cell work. It was her breakthrough that enabled us to create parthenogenic stem cells in the beginning. The other people listed on the slide are all key people, but I won't drag you through all of their bios. There is a name on the next slide that I would like to call your attention to, and that's Hans Kierstadt. Hans is at the Reeve Institute in Irvine, and Hans is the guy who developed the cells that Geron is now using in clinical trials, and he's developed the cells that we're using in our clinical trials for macular degeneration. So we have a world-renowned scientist and somebody who's already been there, done that with the FDA, helping guide our research. The others, again, the other advisors are world-class scientists, but I'm not going to take your time to go through their bios at this point. That's the essence of our story. We've created a new way of making pluripotent stem cells. We think it's better than either embryonic or iPS cells for its own function without taking anything away from the very valuable uses that both embryonic and iPS cells can provide. And we can provide any cell in the body without ethical issues and address the immune problems that so far have plagued the stem cell transplant business. That's our story. If any of you want to contact us, our contact information is available. Our website at www.internationalstemcell.com will lead you to not only our people, but our investor contacts, the people at excuse me, an investor relations group, as well as most any other information that you might like to have about the company. Thank you, Janet, for giving us this opportunity.
Thank you, everybody.